Welcome to my channel, Speak Up Flow.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the English Podcast is a place where we learn about important world events while also practicing English together. Our goal is to share knowledge in simple, clear words so that anyone, no matter their level of English, can understand and learn something new. Today, Julia and I will guide you through a very special and historic topic.
Yes, Adam, and hello to all of our wonderful listeners around the world. We are so thankful that you are here with us. The topic we are discussing today is truly historic. It is about Palestine being recognized by three major countries: the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. These are countries that have great influence in world politics, and their recognition carries deep meaning. This moment is being seen as a turning point in international relations.
Exactly, Julia. Before we begin exploring the details, we want to invite all of our listeners to take part in this journey with us. If you are listening right now, please give this video a like because it helps more learners and listeners find our podcast. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we kindly ask you to subscribe to the English Globe so that you never miss our future episodes. We share new and exciting topics every week, and your support means so much to us.
That's right, Adam. We also want to hear from you, dear listeners. Please go down to the comments and tell us where you are listening from. Are you joining us from Europe, Asia, Africa, the Middle East, or the Americas? We would love to know. You can also share your opinion about today's topic. What do you think about Palestine being recognized by the UK, Canada, and Australia? Your voice matters, and we want this channel to be a place for global conversation.
Now, let us begin with why this topic is so important. Recognition is not just a simple political word. It is a statement in international relations. When one country recognizes another, it means they are officially saying, "We see you as a state. We acknowledge your rights. We are ready to work with you for Palestine, which has waited many decades for global recognition." This is a powerful step forward. It shows how world politics can shift and create new opportunities.
And it is not only important for Palestine itself, but also for the wider international community. This recognition sends a message about fairness, diplomacy, and justice. It is about the principles of respect and equality among nations. For students of English and international relations, this is a chance to understand both the vocabulary and the meaning of these global events. That is why this episode is not only about news, it is also about learning the language of world politics.
That is such an important point, Julia. At the English Globe, our mission is twofold. First, to help you understand global events with clear explanations, and second, to help you improve your English by listening to real discussions. We use words like recognition, sovereignty, and diplomacy, but we explain them in ways that everyone can follow. In today's episode, you will not only learn about Palestine's recognition, but also gain useful new vocabulary to use in your own English journey.
Yes, dear listeners, and remember that learning English is not only about grammar and rules. It is also about understanding how the world works. When you listen to real topics, you connect the language to real life. Today's episode is perfect for that. We will take a complex event, the recognition of Palestine, and explain it in steps that are simple, clear, and educational. In this way, you improve your English while also expanding your knowledge about history and politics.
So let us keep this in mind. This recognition by the UK, Canada, and Australia is not just a political headline. It is a story about international voices coming together, about history being made, and about how global actions affect people's lives. For Palestine, it represents hope and change. For the rest of the world, it represents a lesson in diplomacy. And for you, our listeners, it represents a unique chance to learn English in a meaningful context.
As we begin our journey through this topic, we invite you once again to be part of our global classroom. Please like this video if you find it helpful, subscribe to the English Globe to stay connected with us, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback not only encourages us, but it also builds a learning community. Together, we can explore important world events and grow in our English skills. Let us now move deeper into today's historic discussion.
Before we go further into the story of Palestine, it is important to stop for a moment and understand the meaning of recognition in international relations. Recognition may sound like a simple word, but in politics, it carries a deep and powerful meaning. When a government says that it recognizes another territory or people as a state, it is making an official statement. It is not just words. It is a diplomatic act that shapes how countries relate to each other.
Exactly, Adam. Recognition means more than just saying we know you exist. It means a country is accepting another as a legal and legitimate state. For example, if one country recognizes another, they can open embassies, sign agreements, and cooperate on trade, security, and culture. Without recognition, these steps are very difficult. So recognition is like opening the door to friendship between states. It shows respect and readiness to build official relations.
That's right, Julia. To make this even clearer, let's think about an example. Imagine a new country appears in the world. People there elect leaders, write laws, and want to be part of the global community. But unless other countries recognize it, that new state will struggle to join international organizations like the United Nations. It may also struggle to sign trade deals. Recognition is like receiving an invitation to the international table. Without it, a state is often isolated.
Yes, and history gives us many examples of how recognition has shaped the future of countries. For instance, after the Second World War, several new states were recognized as independent. Recognition gave them the ability to work with others, join treaties, and build a place in the international system. On the other hand, when recognition is denied, a territory might remain disputed for decades. This shows how powerful recognition is in giving legitimacy and stability to a state.
Recognition can also be divided into two types: de facto and de jure. De facto recognition means a country admits that another territory is functioning like a state, but they don't give it full legal status. De jure recognition is stronger. It means full legal acceptance as a sovereign country. These terms may sound complex, but they are important. For Palestine, the recognition we are talking about from the UK, Canada, and Australia is a step toward de jure acceptance.
That's a useful distinction, Adam. And here is a good language learning point for our listeners. The word sovereignty is often used in this context. Sovereignty means the full right of a country to govern itself, without outside control. When a country is recognized, its sovereignty is acknowledged. Another important word is diplomacy. Diplomacy is the practice of managing international relations through dialogue, negotiation, and agreements instead of conflict.
And listeners, it's important to note that recognition is not always simple or automatic. Sometimes countries hesitate to recognize a new state because of political reasons, alliances, or conflicts of interest. For example, one powerful country may block recognition if it has its own disputes with the state in question. This shows that recognition is not just a legal act, but also a political choice. It reflects how nations balance their own interests with global principles.
Very true, Adam. Recognition can even be used as a tool of influence. A country may delay recognition to put pressure on another state, or it may offer recognition as a reward for certain actions, such as making peace or signing an agreement. This shows us that recognition is not only symbolic, but also strategic. It can change the direction of conflicts, create new partnerships, and open opportunities for development. For Palestine, recognition is both symbolic and practical.
And for English learners, this is a great chance to see how international words are used in real life. When you hear the word recognition, think about it not only as knowing someone, but also as accepting officially. When you hear diplomacy, think about talking, meeting, and negotiating instead of fighting. When you hear sovereignty, think about independence and self-rule. These words will come up often in discussions about Palestine and other global issues.
To make learning easier, let's give one more example. Think of a sports match. A team may win a game, but if the referee does not officially recognize the result, it is not accepted. The players may celebrate, but the victory is not recorded. Recognition in international politics works in a similar way. A people may declare independence, but until other states and international bodies recognize it, the independence is not fully official. Recognition turns dreams into reality.
That is such a simple and powerful way to explain it, Julia. So, dear listeners, now we can see why recognition is a key concept in international relations. It gives legitimacy, opens doors for cooperation, and allows nations to step onto the global stage. Without recognition, a state remains limited, almost invisible in the international system. This is why the recognition of Palestine by the UK, Canada, and Australia is being seen as historic. It changes the picture.
Exactly. And as we go deeper into this topic in the next sections, we will see how this recognition is not only about politics, but also about people, identity, and justice. For now, remember the key words: recognition, sovereignty, and diplomacy. These are words you can practice in your daily English learning. Try making your own sentences with them. For example, recognition is important in international relations, or diplomacy helps to solve conflicts. Practice makes progress.
Now that we understand the meaning of recognition, it is time to look at the background of Palestine in world politics. This is important because history explains why recognition matters so much today. Palestine is not a new name on the world map. It is a land with a very long history, full of culture, religion, and trade. For centuries, people have spoken about this land because of its unique position between Asia, Africa, and Europe.
Yes, Adam, Palestine has always been part of global conversations. In ancient times, it was known as a place where different civilizations met. Traders, travelers, and rulers passed through this land, and many cultures left their marks on it. For this reason, Palestine has always been more than just a small piece of land. It has been a symbol, a place that connects many parts of the world. This historical importance is one reason why it is often discussed in international politics.
Moving into modern history, Palestine became a central topic during the 20th century. After the First World War, it came under the control of the United Kingdom through what was called the British Mandate. This period lasted from the early 1920s until 1948. During those years, many debates took place about who should govern the land and what kind of state should exist there. These debates grew stronger and more complex as time passed.
After the Second World War, the question of Palestine became even more important in world discussions. In 1947, the United Nations presented a plan to divide the land into two parts, one for Jewish people and one for Arab people. This plan was accepted by some and rejected by others, which led to tension. From that time until now, Palestine has been at the center of international attention. Governments, organizations, and leaders around the world have spoken about it.
What makes Palestine's journey special is that, unlike many other territories, it has not yet fully become a recognized state. Many people around the world see it as a country, and many governments support that view. However, without official recognition from powerful states and without full membership in the United Nations, Palestine has continued to struggle for its place in international law. This long struggle explains why the recent recognition is seen as so historic.
For English learners, this is a good chance to focus on some important words. One word is mandate. A mandate is when one country is given the authority to govern a land for a period of time, usually by an international decision. Another word is partition. Partition means to divide something into parts. In 1947, the United Nations suggested a partition of Palestine. These words are part of the vocabulary of world history and politics, and they are useful to remember.
Another key word is conflict. Conflict means a serious disagreement, often between groups or countries. Palestine's story has been shaped by conflicts about land, identity, and rights. But at the same time, there have also been efforts at peace talks, which are official discussions between leaders to find solutions. These terms, conflict and peace talks, appear often in world news. By learning them in this context, you can understand English articles and discussions more easily.
Over the decades, Palestine has been represented in many international forums. In 1974, for example, the United Nations gave Palestine the status of observer. This meant Palestine could attend meetings, give speeches, and be part of conversations, but it did not have full voting rights like other member states. Later, in 2012, the United Nations recognized Palestine as a non-member observer state. This step was important, but it still stopped short of full membership.
That's a very good point, Julia. For Palestine, these steps showed progress, but not the final goal. Recognition from individual countries has also played a big role in this journey. Over the years, many nations, especially in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, recognized Palestine as a state. However, many Western countries did not take that step until recently. That is why the recognition by the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia feels like a turning point in history.
For our listeners, it is also important to understand that Palestine is not just about politics. It is about people. Millions of Palestinians live in the region, and many others live abroad in what is called the diaspora. The word diaspora means a community of people living outside their homeland. The Palestinian diaspora has kept the culture and identity alive in many countries. This shows that even without full recognition, Palestinian identity continues to be strong.
So, when we talk about the background of Palestine in world politics, we are really talking about a story of endurance. It is a story of a people and a land that have been at the center of debates for more than a century. It is also a story that teaches us about how the international system works and how recognition, diplomacy, and negotiations can shape the destiny of nations. That is why this background is so important for understanding today's news.
Exactly, Adam. And for you, dear listeners, this history is not only educational, but it is also a perfect way to improve your English. As you listen, you are learning how to use words like mandate, partition, conflict, peace talks, and diaspora. Try to use these words in your own sentences. For example, the United Nations created a partition plan in 1947. Or, Palestinians live in a large diaspora around the world. By practicing in this way, your English will grow stronger.
So, to summarize this section, Palestine has a long and complex background in world politics. From ancient times to the British Mandate, from the Partition Plan of 1947 to the observer status at the United Nations, Palestine has always been part of global conversations. This long history helps us understand why recognition today matters so deeply. It is not just another news event, it is the continuation of a story that the world has been following for many generations. Dear listeners, now let us focus on the United Kingdom and its role in this story. The UK's recognition of Palestine is very important because of the country's long history in the Middle East. The United Kingdom is not just any state. For more than a century, it has been deeply connected to events in this region. Because of that, when the UK recognizes Palestine, it carries a special weight. It is not only about the present, but also about history coming full circle.
Yes, Adam. And to understand this better, we need to go back to the early 1900s. After the First World War, the United Kingdom received control over Palestine through something called the British Mandate. This was approved by the League of Nations, which was the international organization before the United Nations. The mandate gave the UK responsibility to govern Palestine. For English learners, remember that the word mandate means official authority to manage a land.
That's right, Julia. The British Mandate lasted from 1920 until 1948. During this period, many important decisions about Palestine's future were debated. The UK had to manage different communities living in the land, and it faced many challenges. This period is part of what we call colonial history. Colonial history refers to the time when powerful countries controlled territories outside their own borders. For Palestine, this colonial history shaped its modern political journey.
And this is why the UK's recognition today is so meaningful. In a way, it is connected to its colonial past. When a former colonial power takes a new position, the world pays attention. It shows that even old relationships can change. For English learners, this is a chance to remember the word diplomacy. Diplomacy is the art of managing international relations through discussion, negotiation, and agreements. Recognition is a form of diplomacy in action.
Another reason the UK's recognition matters is because of its influence in world politics. The United Kingdom is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. This means it has a special voice in decisions about international peace and security. When such a powerful state recognizes Palestine, it gives more strength to the call for Palestinian statehood. Other nations often follow the lead of powerful members in the international community.
That's an excellent point, Adam. The UK also has close relationships with many countries in Europe, the Americas, and the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is a group of nations, many of which were once connected to Britain through colonial history. These countries often look at the UK as a model for their own decisions. So, when the UK takes a big step like recognising Palestine, it may inspire other governments to do the same. This creates a chain reaction in diplomacy.
And let's not forget the UK's historical presence in the Middle East. The United Kingdom has long been involved in this region, from trade routes to military bases, and from colonial governance to modern partnerships. This presence has given it a responsibility in the eyes of the world. Some people say that because the UK played a big role in shaping the past of the Middle East, it also has a responsibility to support fair and peaceful solutions today.
Yes, and this is why people around the world saw the UK's recognition of Palestine as more than just a political act. It was also a message about history, responsibility, and change. For learners, think about how words like colonial history, mandate, and diplomacy all connect here. Colonial history explains the past. Mandate describes the UK's role after World War I. Diplomacy explains how the UK is now using peaceful recognition instead of control or conflict.
Another interesting point is how the UK's decision reflects changing attitudes inside the country itself. In Britain, leaders, scholars, and citizens have debated the Palestinian issue for decades. Some supported recognition earlier, while others resisted it. This shows how recognition is not only about international law, but also about domestic politics. When governments make such choices, they are listening to voices from both inside their country and outside it.
For Palestine, UK recognition sends a strong signal. It shows that even a country that once controlled its land under a mandate can now officially support its independence. That is why many Palestinians and international observers saw this moment as historic. It was like turning a page in a long book of history, moving from the past of colonial rule to the present of diplomacy and recognition. For English learners, this gives a clear example of how history and politics connect.
And to make learning practical, let us repeat our key vocabulary: colonial history, mandate, and diplomacy. You can practice sentences like, "The British mandate controlled Palestine until 1948," or "Diplomacy helps countries solve problems peacefully," or "Colonial history affects modern international relations." By practicing with these words, you not only learn English, but also understand world history in a deeper way.
So, in conclusion for this section, the United Kingdom's recognition is important for three main reasons. First, because of its colonial history in Palestine and the wider Middle East. Second, because of its power as a global actor and Permanent Security Council member. And third, because of its influence on other nations through diplomacy and alliances. All these reasons make the UK's step historic and meaningful, both for Palestine and for international politics as a whole.
Now let us turn our attention to Canada and its role in this historic moment. Canada may be far from the Middle East geographically, but its influence in world politics is significant. For decades, Canada has been involved in international peace efforts and has earned a reputation as a country that supports diplomacy and fairness. When Canada recognizes a state like Palestine, it is not just a symbolic act. It carries weight and meaning.
That's right, Adam. Canada has a long history of participating in international peacekeeping missions. Peacekeeping is when a country sends its military or civilian personnel to help maintain peace in areas affected by conflict. Canadian forces have been part of such missions in many regions, including the Middle East. This history shows that Canada is seen as a nation that values stability, dialogue, and peaceful solutions rather than aggression.
Exactly, Julia. For English learners, notice the word peacekeeping. You can use it in sentences like, Canada has participated in peacekeeping missions around the world. Another important word is neutrality. Neutrality means not taking sides in a conflict, which often helps a country mediate between different parties. Canada has often positioned itself as a neutral country in sensitive international disputes, which gives its recognition special credibility.
Yes, Adam. And another key word is international law. International law refers to rules and agreements that govern relations between countries. When Canada recognizes Palestine, it is acknowledging its rights under international law. This shows that Canada's recognition is not random. It is based on principles of justice and legal standards recognized by the global community. Learning these terms helps English learners understand not only language, but also global politics.
One reason Canada's recognition carries weight is because of its global reputation. Canada is trusted by many countries to act responsibly in international relations. Its decisions are often carefully considered, taking into account both moral values and political consequences. This means that when Canada officially recognizes Palestine, other nations pay attention, and it strengthens the legitimacy of Palestine's statehood in the eyes of the international community.
And Canada's recognition is also important because it demonstrates the power of smaller but influential nations. While Canada is not a superpower like the United States or China, it has consistently used diplomacy and international law to influence global decisions. This shows that even countries without extreme military power can shape important events by taking principled stances on justice and fairness.
Another interesting point is that Canada often serves as a mediator in international negotiations. Its neutral approach and focus on peacekeeping allow it to act as a bridge between conflicting parties. For Palestine, this recognition is therefore more than symbolic. It represents the support of a country that has long worked to balance interests in difficult situations, and it signals hope for further cooperation in international relations.
For English learners, this is a great opportunity to practice words like peacekeeping, neutrality, and international law. For example, you might say, Canada promotes peacekeeping missions to help resolve conflicts. Or, neutrality allows countries to mediate disputes effectively. Or, recognition of states should respect international law. Using these words helps you read, write, and discuss global news in English confidently.
Canada's recognition also highlights its role in multilateral diplomacy. Multilateral diplomacy means working together with multiple countries to solve global problems. Canada is a member of many international organizations, such as the United Nations and the Organization of American States, where it supports peaceful negotiations and legal solutions. This is why its recognition of Palestine is not just a local decision, but part of a broader commitment to global stability.
And let's not forget the human element. Canada has a large immigrant population, including people of Middle Eastern heritage. Many Canadians have personal connections to the region, which increases awareness and understanding of Palestine's situation. This social perspective complements Canada's political stance, showing that recognition is shaped by both ethical values and knowledge of global realities.
So, in summary, Canada's recognition of Palestine is meaningful because of its history in peacekeeping, its reputation for neutrality, and its respect for international law. These qualities make Canada's support significant in the eyes of the world. For Palestine, it strengthens legitimacy. For the international community, it demonstrates that diplomacy and law remain powerful tools for achieving peace and justice.
And dear listeners, as you reflect on this section, try using the new vocabulary we introduced. Write simple sentences with peacekeeping, neutrality, and international law. For example, neutrality helps countries solve conflicts peacefully. This practice will help you connect English learning with real-world events. Understanding Canada's role gives a clear picture of how nations work together to make history and shape the future.
Now let us turn our attention to Australia and its role in the recognition of Palestine. Australia is geographically far from the Middle East, but it plays an important role in global politics. Its political identity is shaped by its alliances with Western countries and its consistent approach to international law. When Australia recognizes a state like Palestine, it reflects not only a national decision, but also a broader shift in Western nations' perspectives.
That's right, Adam. For English learners, the term foreign policy is very important here. Foreign policy is a country's plan for interacting with other countries. Australia's foreign policy focuses on stability, cooperation, and adherence to international rules. By officially recognizing Palestine, Australia demonstrates a significant change in its foreign policy approach toward the Middle East, signaling support for international dialogue and fairness.
Exactly, Julia. Another key concept is alliance. Australia is a member of alliances with countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and other Western nations. Alliances often influence decisions in global politics. When Australia recognized Palestine, it showed that even nations in strong alliances can act independently while promoting diplomacy. This demonstrates that recognition is not only about geography, but also about values and shared responsibilities.
Yes, Adam, and this recognition is also part of a larger pattern in Western nations. Over recent decades, countries like the UK, Canada, and now Australia are gradually shifting their approach to Palestine. This is not just about a single decision. It reflects a growing willingness among Western nations to support international justice and acknowledgement of long-standing historical issues. Such shifts can influence other countries to reconsider their positions as well.
Another important idea is regional impact. Regional impact refers to the effects a decision has on a specific area. Australia's recognition may influence the Middle East region by encouraging dialogue, fostering cooperation, and showing support for international law. Even though Australia is far away, its decision can create ripples that affect neighboring countries, global organizations, and ongoing peace initiatives. This shows how interconnected our world has become.
For English learners, let's review some vocabulary. Foreign policy means a country's plan for dealing with other countries. Alliance means a formal agreement between countries to work together. Regional impact means the effect of a decision or event on a particular area. Try making sentences with these words. For example, Australia's foreign policy encourages peace in the Middle East. Or, alliances help countries work together during difficult times.
Australia's decision also reflects its growing international influence. While it is not a superpower like the United States or China, Australia's consistent commitment to law, diplomacy, and human rights allows it to be respected in global affairs. Its recognition of Palestine shows that even middle-sized nations can contribute to historic international developments and encourage positive change across regions.
And this is important for listeners because it shows how international decisions are interconnected. Recognition by one country can encourage others to follow, especially when it comes from a respected nation with alliances and a strong foreign policy. Australia's recognition is a clear example of how nations can act responsibly to promote fairness and cooperation in global politics.
Another point is that Australia's recognition aligns with its long-standing role in international organizations. Australia participates actively in the United Nations, the Commonwealth, and other global forums. These memberships reinforce its commitment to collective decision-making and peaceful solutions. Recognition of Palestine shows that Australia is using its voice to support principles of justice and diplomacy in international law.
And for English learners, this is a great example of how language connects to global events. Words like foreign policy, alliance, and regional impact are used in news articles, political discussions, and educational texts. By understanding their meanings in this context, you can improve comprehension and also practice using them in your own sentences about international topics.
So, to summarize, Australia's recognition of Palestine is meaningful for several reasons. It reflects the country's identity in global affairs, demonstrates a shift among Western nations, and creates a regional impact in the Middle East. For Palestine, it strengthens legitimacy. For international observers, it shows that diplomacy, alliances, and foreign policy decisions continue to shape world events in positive ways.
And dear listeners, as you reflect on this section, remember to practice the vocabulary. You might say, Australia's foreign policy supports peace in the region, or alliances can help countries solve conflicts together. or recognition has a regional impact beyond the borders of one nation. Practicing in this way will help you understand English while learning about important historical events and global politics.
Now that we have explored the roles of the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, it is important to look at how the world reacted to their recognition of Palestine. Global reactions are very diverse. Different countries, regions, and international organizations responded in different ways. Some welcomed the decision, while others expressed concerns or opposition. Understanding these reactions helps us see the complexity of international politics.
That's right, Adam. For English learners, notice the word reaction. A reaction is how someone responds to an event, decision, or action. For example, people, governments, or organizations can have positive reactions, negative reactions, or mixed reactions. When the UK, Canada, and Australia recognised Palestine, reactions appeared quickly in newspapers, social media, and official statements from governments around the world.
Many countries expressed support for the recognition. Support means agreeing with a decision and encouraging it. Nations in Asia, Africa, and Latin America that have historically recognized Palestine welcomed this move. They praised the UK, Canada, and Australia for taking steps to promote fairness, justice, and diplomacy. This shows that international recognition can strengthen connections between countries that share similar values and goals.
On the other hand, some governments expressed opposition. Opposition means disagreement or resistance to a decision. Countries that have historically been cautious about recognizing Palestine were careful in their responses. They emphasized the need for negotiations and peaceful dialogue. In international relations, opposition does not always mean hostility. It can simply reflect a different approach or priority. Understanding this distinction is very useful for English learners studying global affairs.
Another interesting aspect is how international organizations reacted. Organizations like the United Nations and regional groups often respond in ways that balance support and neutrality. They may issue statements acknowledging progress while encouraging continued dialogue. These reactions show the importance of maintaining peace and communication between all parties. Learning the word agreement is useful here. Agreement means shared understanding or acceptance of a decision, sometimes formalized in treaties or statements.
Yes, Adam, and this is a good moment to review our vocabulary. Reaction is how someone responds to an event. Opposition means disagreement. Support is agreement or encouragement. Agreement is formal acceptance of a decision or idea. For example, we can say, many countries showed support for recognition, or some nations expressed opposition due to concerns. Practicing these words in sentences helps English learners understand political discussions more clearly.
It is also important to notice that reactions can vary even within regions. In Europe, for example, some governments expressed strong support, highlighting principles of human rights and international law. Others remained cautious, emphasizing negotiations and conflict resolution. These differences show that global reactions are not uniform and reflect a mix of political, historical, and social factors. This complexity makes the topic both challenging and educational.
In the Middle East, reactions were also diverse. Many Arab countries expressed strong support, seeing recognition as an important step toward justice and diplomacy. At the same time, some countries focused on encouraging continued negotiations between Israel and Palestine to maintain stability in the region. Neutral reactions often aim to balance support with careful guidance for future diplomacy. This shows the delicate nature of international responses.
For English learners, it is interesting to see how these words appear in news and reports. Journalists might write, "The government reacted positively to the decision," or there was opposition from several countries. Or, support for recognition grew among international organizations. Using these words regularly helps learners understand world events and practice advanced vocabulary in simple ways.
Another key point is that reactions are often connected to alliances and partnerships. Countries in close alliances tend to show similar reactions. They may offer support to maintain strong relationships. Countries with different priorities may express opposition. Understanding these patterns allows learners to connect vocabulary with real-world examples. For instance, allies often support each other's decisions, or opposition can lead to dialogue and negotiation.
And let's not forget that reactions are not static. They can evolve over time. A country that initially expressed caution might later show support after dialogue or new developments. Similarly, opposition can sometimes turn into agreement if compromises are made. For English learners, this is a good way to practice verbs like react, support, oppose, and agree, which are very common in news reports and political discussions.
So, in summary, global reactions to the recognition of Palestine were diverse. Some countries and organizations expressed support, others opposition, and many aimed to find agreements for continued dialogue. By studying these reactions, English learners can not only understand world events, but also practice vocabulary that explains responses, disagreements, and consensus in neutral educational language.
And dear listeners, as you reflect on this section, try using the words we introduced. For example, the country reacted positively to international news, or there was opposition from neighboring states, or global support helped create agreement. These sentences allow you to link English learning with real-world politics, making both understanding and communication easier. Now we turn to a very important topic: what recognition means for Palestinians in their daily lives. Recognition is not just a political or diplomatic idea. It can have real effects on people's everyday experiences. For instance, it can change opportunities for education, trade, travel, and many other aspects of life. Understanding this helps us see why recognition is so meaningful beyond international meetings and news headlines.
That's right, Adam. One of the most immediate impacts is on travel. When a country is recognized, its citizens can have more accepted passports. A passport is an official document that allows people to travel between countries. For Palestinians, recognition by major nations can make it easier to get visas, study abroad, or work in other countries. This shows that political recognition can directly improve mobility and access to the world.
Another area affected by recognition is the economy. Economy refers to how money, trade, jobs, and resources are organized in a country. When Palestine receives recognition, it can create more opportunities for international trade and business partnerships. This can lead to new jobs, better services, and economic growth. For English learners, understanding the word economy is important because it appears often in discussions about world events and everyday life.
Yes, Adam. And recognition can also affect education. Students may have better opportunities to study abroad or participate in international programs. Schools and universities may receive more support from foreign institutions. Recognition sends a message that the country is part of the global system, which increases opportunities for learning and skill development. For learners, the word opportunity is useful. It means a chance to do something or improve life.
Another interesting point is that recognition helps with international cooperation. For instance, countries can sign agreements on trade, science, culture, and technology. These agreements create opportunities for innovation and partnerships. Palestinians can benefit from new projects, investments, and exchanges with other countries. This shows that recognition is not only symbolic, but also practical affecting the lives of ordinary people in meaningful ways.
For English learners, let's focus on our key vocabulary again. Passport is a document for travel. Economy is about jobs, trade, and money. Opportunity is a chance to improve life. You can practice sentences like, recognition can help citizens get passports more easily. Or, recognition can improve the economy by encouraging trade. Or, recognition creates new opportunities for students and businesses. Practicing these words helps learners connect language with real life.
Recognition can also improve access to international organizations. For example, Palestinians may participate in programs organized by the United Nations or other institutions. This can lead to new opportunities for scholarships, healthcare support, and cultural exchange. Everyday life can change because recognition opens doors that were previously difficult to access, allowing people to connect with the wider world.
And recognition can also influence travel within the region. Easier travel allows families to connect, businesses to expand, and students to study in neighboring countries. Even small improvements in mobility can have a large impact on people's lives. For English learners, this shows how global events can affect ordinary actions like traveling, working, or attending school. The word opportunity ties all these changes together.
Another practical effect is on international investments. Foreign businesses may feel more confident to invest in Palestine after recognition, improving the economy. Investments can create jobs, improve infrastructure, and support local communities. This demonstrates that recognition is not only about politics, but also about creating tangible benefits in everyday life, including better schools, healthcare, and public services.
And let's not forget cultural exchanges. Recognition allows Palestinians to participate in international sports, arts, and science programs. These opportunities enrich daily life and strengthen national identity. For English learners, this shows that recognition is not only a diplomatic act, but also a tool for improving people's lives in many areas, including education, economy, travel, and culture.
To summarize, recognition for Palestinians has many practical impacts. It can improve passports, expand economic opportunities, enhance education, and open doors to international cooperation. It creates real chances for people to improve their lives and connect with the world. For English learners, this is a perfect example of how political events translate into practical changes in society and daily life.
Dear listeners, as you reflect on this section, try using the new vocabulary in sentences. For example, recognition helps citizens get passports. Recognition can strengthen the economy. And recognition creates opportunities for students and businesses. Using these words allows you to learn English while understanding global events and the positive impact of diplomacy on daily life.
Dear listeners, in this section, we explore the broader implications of recognizing Palestine for international relations. Recognition does not only affect the countries involved and Palestinians, it also sends signals to the entire world. Global politics is a network of interactions, agreements, and principles. When countries like the UK, Canada, and Australia take historic steps, it can influence other nations, international organizations, and future policies in ways that go beyond immediate borders.
That's right, Adam. One important concept here is multilateral relations. Multilateral means involving multiple countries working together on a common issue. Recognition of Palestine can affect multilateral discussions in the United Nations, regional organizations, and other international forums. For English learners, notice how this word is used. For example, multilateral agreements require cooperation from many nations. It helps describe complex global decisions clearly.
Another key concept is Diplomacy. Diplomacy is the skill of managing international relationships peacefully through negotiation, dialogue, and compromise. Recognition of Palestine shows that diplomacy can achieve meaningful results. It illustrates how nations can communicate, make agreements, and influence global politics without conflict. Learning this term helps English learners understand not only politics, but also the language used in news and educational texts.
Recognition also sets a precedent. A precedent is an example or decision that can guide future actions. In this case, the recognition by powerful Western nations can encourage other countries to reconsider their positions on Palestine or similar international issues. A precedent shows that actions taken today may influence decisions tomorrow. This concept is very important in law, politics, and diplomacy, and it is often used in discussions about global relations.
For English learners, let's connect these words to simple examples. Multilateral diplomacy helped countries agree on trade rules. Or, recognition can set a precedent for other nations. Using these words helps students understand how one decision in global politics can ripple through multiple countries and influence future international relations. It also shows the practical side of complex vocabulary.
Another implication is that recognition can encourage countries to engage more actively in the Middle East. Governments may see opportunities to participate in peace talks, provide humanitarian support, or strengthen trade and cultural exchanges. This increased engagement can create new channels of communication and collaboration, making international relations more dynamic and interconnected.
Yes, Julia. And this also teaches English learners how global actions affect decisions elsewhere. For instance, a country observing the recognition of Palestine may reconsider its foreign policy, reevaluate alliances, or initiate negotiations. Vocabulary like multilateral, diplomacy, and precedent helps describe these actions in clear educational terms. Understanding these words enables learners to read and discuss international news confidently.
Another interesting point is that recognition can influence the global perception of justice and fairness. Countries that prioritize diplomacy, law, and negotiation gain respect and credibility in international forums. Observers may use these examples to guide their own decisions, showing that ethical considerations and political strategy often work together in shaping international relations.
Recognition also teaches lessons about negotiation and dialogue. Countries may notice that peaceful recognition, rather than unilateral actions, can produce constructive outcomes. Multilateral diplomacy, guided by international law and precedent, becomes a model for other regions facing conflict or unresolved disputes. For English learners, this shows how language and vocabulary describe not only events, but also principles of global cooperation.
And it is important to remember that these implications are ongoing. Other countries may watch, analyze, and adjust their policies based on how recognition affects Palestinians, international organizations, and regional stability. This dynamic process demonstrates the long-term importance of diplomatic decisions, showing that world politics is a continual conversation shaped by actions, agreements, and precedents.
So, in summary, recognition of Palestine has wide implications for international relations. It demonstrates the value of multilateral cooperation, highlights the importance of diplomacy, and establishes a precedent that can guide future decisions. Countries around the world observe, learn, and adjust, making this recognition not only historic, but also a teaching moment for global politics.
And dear listeners, as you reflect on this section, try using the vocabulary in your own sentences. For example, multilateral talks helped countries solve a problem. diplomacy prevents conflicts between nations, or the decisions set a precedent for future recognition. Practicing these words strengthens English skills while helping you understand the broader meaning of world events.
As we reach the final part of today's podcast, let us take a moment to reflect on what we have discussed. Today, we explored a historic topic: the recognition of Palestine by the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. We learned about the roles of these countries, the global reactions, and the practical impacts on Palestinians' lives. It is fascinating to see how history, diplomacy, and law interact to shape real-world events that affect millions of people.
That's right, Adam. And for English learners, today's discussion introduced many new words. Words like mandate, diplomacy, peacekeeping, neutrality, foreign policy, alliance, regional impact, reaction, opposition, support, agreement, passport, economy, opportunity, multilateral, and precedent are all very useful. You can now try to create simple sentences using these words. For example, diplomacy helps countries solve conflicts peacefully.
Exactly, Julia. Remember that learning English is not just about memorizing words. It is also about understanding how these words appear in real conversations and in world events. By connecting vocabulary with news, history, and international affairs, learners can practice reading, speaking, and listening at the same time. This podcast itself is an example of how English can be both educational and engaging.
Another important point is that global events, like recognition of Palestine, offer a perfect opportunity for learners to practice comprehension. When you read or listen to news, try to notice familiar words and guess the meaning of new ones from context. This is a very effective strategy to improve both vocabulary and understanding. Words like reaction, opposition, and support often appear in news about politics and international relations.
Today's discussion also showed how interconnected our world is. The decisions of a few countries can have widespread effects on regions, individuals, and global diplomacy. Understanding these connections helps learners improve their analytical skills in English. You can describe cause and effect using simple sentences like, "Recognition of Palestine created new opportunities for students and businesses," or "Global reactions showed both support and opposition."
And dear listeners, it is important to reflect on the human side of these events. Recognition of Palestine affects people's daily lives, education, trade, travel, and opportunities. By connecting language learning to real-world topics, you gain knowledge and build your English skills simultaneously. This approach helps you discuss important issues confidently while practicing comprehension and vocabulary.
For English learners, repetition is very helpful. Try revisiting the words we introduced and using them in your own sentences. For instance, the United Kingdom used diplomacy to recognize Palestine, or Canada's support created new opportunities, or Australia's decision set a precedent for other countries. Repetition reinforces both understanding and language ability, making learning more effective and memorable.
Another technique is to summarize what you learn in your own words. For example, you could explain the global reactions. Some countries supported recognition, some opposed, and many aimed for agreement. Or you could describe practical effects. Recognition helps Palestinians get passports, improve the economy, and access education. Summarizing like this strengthens comprehension and English expression at the same time.
As we conclude, let us reflect calmly on the main lesson. History, politics, and international relations are not just abstract topics. They influence daily life, provide learning opportunities, and give us examples to practice English. By studying these topics in simple, clear language, you can improve your skills and understand the world more deeply. Vocabulary, context, and reflection all come together to create meaningful learning.
So, dear listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey through history, politics, and English learning. Remember the key words: mandate, diplomacy, peacekeeping, neutrality, foreign policy, alliance, regional impact, reaction, opposition, support, agreement, passport, economy, opportunity, multilateral, precedent. Practice them, use them, and notice them in the news. They will help you discuss complex topics in English with confidence.
Finally, let us leave you with a calm thought. History and international events are always evolving, just like our learning journey. Patience, curiosity, and reflection help both understanding world events and improving English. We hope that today's discussion has inspired you to explore more, practice more, and feel confident discussing important topics in English.
Thank you, dear listeners, for spending this time with us. Continue practicing English, stay curious about the world, and remember that every word you learn brings you closer to understanding not just language, but the stories and people behind it. We hope you feel informed, encouraged, and ready to keep learning. Until next time, keep exploring, reflecting, and speaking English with confidence.